Welcome to GuideMia. Today we're going to talk about managing your cases from the clinician dashboard. This one is for dentists and orthodontists who already have cases on Cympha. You're past the first submission learning curve, and now you want to find any case in a hurry, follow it through its statuses, talk to the lab without picking up the phone, and handle the rare case that goes sideways. By the end you'll know how the dashboard is laid out, what each KPI bucket counts, how the filters work, how shared cases differ from your own, where the chat lives, when Cympha emails you, and how to escalate or stop sharing. It's a 5-minute read as a doc, as a lecture, follow along on screen, or just listen now and read later. 2 things before we open it. You need a Cympha account with the clinical role. Lab side roles see a different dashboard layout, a work queue, which is covered in its own docs. And you need at least one case in your history. If your dashboard is empty, the page still works, the filters and the KPI cards all render, but every count reads 0, so there's nothing to practice on. Submit a case first, and there are lectures in this series for both kinds of submission. Right, let's open it. Sign into app.cympha.com and you land on the dashboard automatically. The header reads Dashboard, with the subtitle, Manage your dental cases and track progress. Top right, 2 controls, a refresh button, the circular arrow, which forces a refetch when you suspect the table has gone stale, and new case, the entry point for submitting, which is only visible on the clinical roll. The promise of this page is simple, and it's the promise of this lecture. Once you know the filters, any specific case is about 3 seconds away. Across the top, for cards summarize your load, and they come from a separate stats endpoint, so they always reflect every case you own, not just what a filter is showing. Total cases is the grand total you've ever submitted that hasn't been deleted. Drafts you abandoned without submitting don't count. Pending means someone has to act before work proceeds. That's submitted, waiting on lab triage, awaiting approval, waiting on you, waiting on customer, where the lab needs more from you, changes requested, and escalated. Processing is the lab actively working, intake review, designing, approved, in manufacturing, shipping. Completed is delivered, finished, and cancelled, though only finished and cancelled are truly closed. A delivered case keeps its holder on the lab side, so follow-up questions can still be fielded. Every status maps into exactly one bucket, so the 3 colored cards plus drafts add up to the total. Below the cards sit 3 controls, and each has a subtlety worth knowing. The search box, its placeholder mentions patient, doctor name, or email, matches the patient name on your cases, and on shared cases it also matches the originating doctor's name. It runs server-side, so it searches your entire history, not just the visible page. The status drop-down shows human-readable statuses, but only the ones that actually appear in your history. A brand new account won't see implant-only statuses cluttering the list. The category drop-down is derived the same way. For lab service cases the option matches the service name verbatim, while native categories appear as orthodontics, implant, and AlignerBot. Pick all categories to clear it. The 2 drop-downs combine, both conditions must hold, and the search applies on top of whatever they've narrowed. Before we dive into rows and statuses, here's the read you're aiming for, because a well-run dashboard tells a story at a glance. Pending stays low, meaning most of your cases are moving on the lab side, not waiting on anyone. Rows in awaiting approval are young, you respond within a day or 2 of the email, so nothing ages on your desk. There are no escalated cases, because escalations are rare in a healthy lab partnership. And the completed count keeps growing, because work is finishing cleanly. Keep that picture in mind. Everything else in this lecture is just the mechanics of getting there. Each row in the table is one case, and the columns run left to right like this. Patient, the name exactly as you typed it at submission. Clicking the name opens the case detail. Status, a colored pill. The case status glossary in the docs maps each color to its state. Category or service, orthodontics, implant, AlignerBot, clearaligner.ai, or the lab's specific service name. Then the lab handling the case, the created and updated timestamps, when you submitted it and when something last happened, and finally the actions column, with a chat icon that opens the conversation in a side sheet. You don't have to aim for the patient name. By the way, clicking anywhere on the row outside the action icons opens the case detail. Some rows aren't yours. When a colleague shares one of their cases with you, it appears with a small shared badge next to the patient name, and those rows play by different rules. You can view the case, its files, and its history, and that's the entire list. No uploads, no chat messages, no status changes, no approvals or rejections, and no sharing controls of your own. If you want to weigh in, contact the case owner directly, outside the platform, or ask them to relay your notes to the lab. One recurring gotcha. If a shared case you were promised isn't on your dashboard, the near certain cause is that you signed in with a different email than the one the share was sent to. Sign out, and sign back in with the exact address from the share email. Here's the path a normal case walks: open any case, and the header's status badge shows where it stands. It starts at submitted, held by the lab manager for triage. If the lab has a case intaker on staff, it passes through intake review, where files and prescription completeness get checked. Then designing, a human designer or the AlignerBot doing the work. Then awaiting approval, you get an email, open the case, and click review and approve. Now the interesting one: approved is a pivot, not a resting state. If another cycle remains, ortho, AlignerBot, and implant cases have two: first the treatment plan, then the appliance design, the case returns to designing. On the final cycle, digital categories jump straight to delivered, there is no manufacturing step. Physical lab service cases stop at approved until the lab moves them into in manufacturing on its own schedule, then shipping, then delivered. Finished means archived, no follow-up coming. And cases can branch sideways at any point, waiting on customer, changes requested, or escalated. The chat lives in two places. From the dashboard, the chat icon on any row opens a side sheet so you can talk without leaving the table. Inside the case detail, the case chat panel is one of the main sections. Who's listening? The participants are you as the case uploader, the assigned lab manager, and whoever currently holds the case on the lab side, which means whoever is actually working your case reads your messages. Two habits make the chat dramatically more useful. First, quote the status you're in, something like, while we're in awaiting approval, can you confirm the IP are on tooth 13, it anchors the conversation to a moment in the case. Second, when you upload a new file, say so in the chat. One sentence pointing at the file saves the lab a hunt through the list. Want a second opinion? In the case detail header, click the share button, the share arrow icon. A dialog opens titled Share this case, type your colleague's email and click share. They get an email, and once they sign in, or sign up, with that exact address, the case appears on their dashboard with the shared badge, read only, just like we covered a moment ago. You can add several recipients to one case, open share again with another email. Now the important asymmetry: stop sharing revokes everyone at once. There is no per recipient revoke, click stop sharing in the dialog, confirm, and every colleague loses access together. And any participant on the case can do it, not only whoever created the share. One boundary to keep straight: stopping colleague shares does not touch a patient share. Share to patient is a different button, only on Aligner cases, with its own lecture. When a deliverable is wrong, you have two levers, and they route differently. Request changes sends the case back to the designer who built it, for another round. That's the normal path when the work just needs iteration. Escalate to lab manager is for when a normal change request doesn't feel right, poor quality, a missed brief, and you want a more senior eye. Both buttons live on the approval page, next to the approve button. Escalating flips the case status to escalated, notifies the lab manager, and they review it personally, reassign it, take it themselves, or call you. You'll see the same escalated status on your dashboard until it resolves. Use it sparingly. Remember the healthy dashboard picture: no escalations is the norm in a good partnership. A word on email, because it's what pulls you back to the dashboard in the first place. Cympha emails you at the key moments that need your attention. For example, when a case you submitted reaches awaiting approval and a deliverable is waiting on your review. When the lab proposes a price on one of your cases. And when a colleague shares a case with you, that one has its own lecture on what to do when a case share email lands. The point is that you don't have to sit on this page refreshing, the moments that need you come and find you. And if an expected email hasn't arrived, before you assume anything is broken, check your spam folder for messages from Cympha. Corporate mail filters are the usual explanation. For moments of confusion, each with a quick answer. First, a case I submitted isn't on my dashboard. Click refresh first, that forces a fresh fetch. If it's still missing, the case may never have left draft. You closed the new case tab before pressing submit case, so the submission never completed. Open the new case page and submit it again. Second, the KPI count and the table count don't match. That is expected, not a bug. The cards cover your full history, excluding drafts. The table shows only the currently filtered page. Clear all the filters and the table will show you the full picture again. Third, a shared row I expected isn't there. Sign out, then sign in with the exact email the share invitation went to. Capitalization doesn't matter, but two addresses that differ by even one character, like the same name at a hospital domain versus a clinic domain, are completely different addresses to Cympha. Fourth, I can't find the chat for a case. Open the case detail and scroll down. The chat panel sits below the file list and the activity log. Or skip that entirely and click the chat icon on the dashboard row, which opens it in a side sheet without leaving the dashboard. That's the dashboard. 4 cards for the overview, 3 filters for the hunt, 1 table for the truth, chat where the work is, and share and escalate for the exceptions. Spend a week with the filters and the 3-second promise from the start of this lecture becomes real. You stop scrolling and start jumping straight to the case you need. From here, the natural next lectures are the approval decision, approve, request changes, or escalate, and sharing a treatment plan with your patient. Both build directly on what you just learned. The written guide, with the full status glossary linked from it, is at cympha.com. Open the Docs section and find Manage Your Cases. We're covering every Cympha workflow in this series, one lecture at a time, so subscribe if you want the next ones as they arrive. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next lecture.